Hello everyone. As I have been editing my videos and as I'm recording a bunch, just for future reference, I feel like I'm going to be stepping back from looking at Fakemon for the time being. I want to give it some time in between reactions, more so than what I've already been doing, because they are starting to feel rather samey. It's like I don't have much new to say, especially on a long series. At the beginning of each fake Dex reaction that I've done, it feels kind of new. It feels like I've got some good ideas, and I can start to gauge where the art is. But towards the end of the reaction, I feel like I'm saying less and less about each mon, and just generally not living up to video expectations that I'm trying to set for myself. So I thought I'd do something a little bit samey as like a goodbye for now for this type of content, but promising for the future, because I still want to keep doing this as a way to both critique myself and others and try and find out where I can improve personally. As a hoorah for the time being, I thought I'd go through and look at Reddit's top Fakemon of all time. I have no idea how many I'm going to go through. I'm going to go for a little bit less than the usual episode, I think. Maybe one episode. I'm just going to keep going until I feel like it. So, I left the page before the whole page loaded because I figured that a design would load up as soon as I clicked on it. So, let's go ahead and find out what Reddit has for us. So finally finished starter sprites. In order, they are the guardians of the rivers, the forests, and the mountains. Fighting water type. I like it a bear. Fairy grass. I can't tell what it's supposed to be, but I mean, it doesn't have to be anything specific. And then steel fire. So fighting water, it's a bear covered in some sort of, oh, I forget what it's called, but like Vaporeon's neck fibers? I don't know what else to call it. It has something akin to that, the webbing on Vaporeon's neck, but more covered in what looks like sea scales, and the same sea scales becoming the claws of this bear. A somewhat normal looking bear. I will note that all of these are 3D models, which is above and beyond the expectations of what I've had for Mon as it is. So that is some extra effort, and I'll try and think of it as a 3D concept more than a 2D because of that. So we're sticking with some very rudimentary shapes with movement limited to bending and flexing versus waving hair. I completely understand, and going with a harder shell and giving it more of a static neck defense is a way to work around that. Fairy grass looks interesting with its very tiny head. Generally, I would think that fairy would be more of a weak looking, like weak structurally with thin arms, thin legs, and a thin body. But this one kind of pulls off a nice grass fairy look where the base of the Mon is thicker than the rest of it, giving it more of a rooted look, while the top half looks more light in both color and thinness. I can't quite tell with the legs, but it looks like they almost part apart a little bit. The green base of the legs versus the rest of the body. Like I said, it's very hard to tell with the model, but the feathers on this middle evolution, they seem to be making some sort of a scaled armor look for this Mon, which I find very interesting for a fairy type. With its coloration and still having them be thick and almost leaf-like, it does portray both a grass and fairy typing, despite being more heavily armored. And then the steel fire, having a demon goat, that mythologically those are two similar concepts, or heavily associated concepts. And I do like it as more of a dark look at a creature. It looks like it could be dark steel, but the yellow/orange coloring does bring a little bit of fire, especially when it comes to the look of its eyes, which look less like eyes and more like peering into a magmic stone that has cooled on the outside but is still very hot on the inside. And the pixel shadowing, I don't know how they did that, but that's really cool. Very interesting. Oh, a broken-hearted love disc? That feels rather morbid. It is associated with a heart, so I could see a possible different region form. Maybe like if they redid which generation it was, but the one that was supposed to emulate France. Imagine just seeing a alternate form love disc with a broken heart. It looks like it could become something more dangerous in a secondary evolution specific to the region. I have no idea where in the world this love disc could be like a broken heart Pokemon, because not much in the world continues to be terrible. I'm thinking France because it's more of a like love city, and people probably get their hearts broken a lot in France. I don't know. But if you're gonna be taking a very direct form of inspiration for a Mon, and that form of inspiration has direct counterparts, change up that Mon a little bit and make it express those different counterparts. It's great. Aw. Oh, full evolutionary line of Pyrebex. One of those evolutions that we had before. So Kidling, Carabex. I'll comment more on those than the other. I do believe that Carabex could be steel, but I believe having a middle evolution that's hinting at metallic parts of the body is enough of a hint that it will become steel, that it is fine. Maybe it has access to more steel moves, but it doesn't need to have that association with the steel typing yet, even if it does have a lot of steel on its body. Kidling also looks really adorable with its little animation. Kyrobex a little bit more anxious, and Pyrebex more stoic. So I do believe that they express their evolutionary stages quite well. For the 3D animation, Kidling looks a bit static, and I'm sure if it was in 2D that there would be more expression in it, in its little dance or its face. Pilosquid, Roquid, and Squidjet. So taking the evolution of pilots along with a squid? It's an interesting idea, but I wouldn't really associate an ocean animal with that of a sky career. Strange. And I guess I don't understand Roquid that well, but Squidjet makes sense, Pilosquid makes sense. Why wouldn't Pilosquid also be flying water? It's a pilot, presumably. What makes Roquid flying but Pilosquid isn't? I guess a pilot can't fly on its own, it needs something specific. And Roquid could be a particular flying contraption? So it's supposed to be a rocket. Okay. Honestly, that went right over my head. Roquid, rocket, yeah. But I do see it now with the stance that it has. It's more of a stationary and it's going to go flying, which makes sense. Like I thought before, pilot squid can't fly on its own. A rocket and a jet can. I do like the colors too. As brown is usually just orange on a computer monitor, orange and blue always work well together, and right here it creates a very striking design. I do believe that the darker blue coloration on the Mon, it does help break up the design, but that would be too fine of a detail to include in pixel art. If it was 3D, maybe that would be fine, and an easy way to texture without having to change up a 3D model. I'd probably simplify Pilosquid's tentacles a little bit, make it more thick and adorable. Right now it looks like it's shoving most of its legs up on one side where you can see it. A little strange, a little complex for my liking, but oh well. Ice Fang the Totodile line. So ice for alligator. Changing up the spikes on its head and end of the tail into ice spikes, or reinforcing them with ice. Real cool. And the whole lower jaw being ice, I really, really dig. I need to look up if Feraligatr has these markings, but in a darker blue. I have a vague recollection that it does. No, it has the reinforced, like, body pads. Oh, I like the stripes better, but... Oh, that could also look like it got its little pads ripped off. That's sad. But it's a really cool design. It looks like it's really aggressive for good reason. I'd be mad too if people ripped off my skin. Feral Yamask. So feral forms, I mean, it just looks like sad Yamask. Oh, Kitsunagus. Okay. So it looks like, so Cafagarus and Runagus into Kitsunagus. I like it. It looks like it has possessed a Kitsune statue left to rot in the forest. Pokemon Claw and Fang. I'll put you on a save because that could be really cool. And I always am a sucker for Japanese culture, which is why I got into Pokemon to begin with. So I would be very, very curious to see where this goes. This Pokemon and where other designs would be. Again, I don't see a mask having that much difference, but taking a Kitsune mask instead of its regular, more stone mask. I'm not sure about the bells. Maybe the bells have a significance I don't know about. But it's a good hint at what's to come. With the fox statue being such a huge thing, and taking another element of Japanese culture, the masks, and Kitsune masks are very popular or prevalent. It is a great way to hint towards something while being very subtle when it comes to feral Yamask. Greek-based regional variant Palisand with evolution. So Sandygast with Excalibur in its head. Palisand's being more Greek architecture with a rogue pillar on its head. And Colossorock? Or Colossorock? Ooh! Okay. I'm not sure why a Greek-based regional variant would have an Excalibur-esque sword embedded in a stone unless there's a Greek variant to that legend. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but I also, it brings to mind the Greek concrete. Maybe a sword got stuck in the drying concrete back in that day. And I too would be screaming in pain if there was a sword lodged in my head. Is definitely the face that Sandygast is making. Palisand. I don't know how I feel about the curved pillars, but if you're... And the size of this thing is incomprehensible. Is it supposed to be the size of, like, a courthouse? Because that is huge. That is a huge change from having a sword in its head, which is still rather large, to being the size of over a building. And then growing even more immense. I believe that Sandygast lured kids into its sandcastle to trap them. Palisand and Colossorock would be able to do that without anybody even noticing. Oh, they just went into that building. Wait, that building's a Pokemon? Oh my god, you're trying to make a Pokemon bigger than Wailord. And way heavier. This one can't fly. Oh, bug-type form for Rotom. And being an electric BugZapper. I love it so much. Oh my god. And then having the little outline of some sort of butterfly or moth? That's super creative. Bug-type form of Rotom. I don't know what else to say. I absolutely love the inspiration. The Rotom is completely visible there, and it's got the little bit of a hint that it's electric if it's your first time seeing it, as the antennae have that lightning bolt aesthetic, along with the bright green, and if you make the connection that it is a BugZapper. Like, 10 out of 10. This is my favorite so far, I think. Poison... Charizard? Alternate starter evolutions based on if you spend time improving an early move instead of learning new ones. This Charizard that improved its smokescreen. Okay. Ooh, it looks very strange without both its wings and having a third set of legs. So I'm guessing this would be a fire poison, which it looks a lot like what Salandit could be. Imagining this as a split evolution for Salandit, or like a Digimon version that's halfway in between Salandit and Charmander. Smokescreen being the prime inspiration here is made extremely prevalent. Instead of having to keep the flame on its tail alive to keep the Charizard alive, it's an endless smoke billowing out the end, and if you ever stop it, it dies. That's cool. Or like there's some fire burning up inside of it that it's filling out smoke on both or from both its tail and its mouth. I'm a fan. I'm perhaps thinking a little bit too much of this with its red teeth, and maybe its teeth are slowly rotting away due to the fumes of this smoke screen. So, let's move on to the next one before I come up with any more dark backstories for this mon. Bootleg Porygon? Picasso for Psychic? Unfold for Dark? Okay, that is dark in concept. If you were just finding that mon and you didn't think about it, that would be weird. But if it's Porygon opening up its mouth, its head, in 4 different ways, kind of like Alien, like an alien jaw, but 4, that'd be really weird. that'd be strange, frightening to say the least. Chibi, so huge head and basically nothing for a body. Now that checks out. Rubble, looking very prehistoric. Simulant, Water, looking like a pure duck, colored like a Psyduck. Color it like a Psyduck. Maybe more of a Psyduck body shape or body proportions would help simulate water. And then Guardian, Steel. Very simplistic looking sword and shield. It looks very humanoid in this orientation, but without arms and legs, yet still retains some sort of polygon or Porygon look. I think out of all of these, my favorite would be Unfold, just purely because of the backstory and what the heck. Is that how Porygon eat? Very, very weird. Mega or Gigantamax Rayquaza. Rayquaza is probably my favorite legendary too. Emerald is my favorite game, bar none. So, a Mega Rayquaza covered in black storm clouds, having the everlasting Fu Manchu. I wish it was looking towards the viewer, that way I could get a better gauge of what its face would look like, but it's also kind of intimidating having it look away. And you're keeping the very base design similar enough, but the storm clouds added into itself, the extra emphasis on the red color scheme. It's a good Gigantamax. I would be very threatened if I saw this and it was as big as I think it is. Like a human would be the size of its tooth. Regional variants and evolution of Mr. Mime. Oh no. So Mr. Mime and its puppeting Mime Juniors. I hope the Mime Juniors look like this, like they are puppets. Master Mime. Oh, okay. So, in this regional variant, I have no idea where it's from, but clearly evil clowns. I want Mime Jr. to be this puppet, and then maybe look Mr. Mime having some sort of joints, but still, like, it's become a real, or a sentient being, less so than Mime Jr. here. Name origin, I like it. Oh, I should actually save this little sheet too, because that's good information. And then Master Mime doing the same for a Mr. Mime in its classic pose. These things are creepy beyond belief. And I like the removal of the nose and the more horn-looking or strange-looking, as his hair's defying gravity, look that Mr. Mime's hair has in this alternate form. Same with Master Mime, it being more horn-like here than in the last one. No, I guess it's the same. It just looks rounder. Eye makeup being depressing here, but looking more like some partially crying through a smile. Very, very, very weird. And P. Tickles? Why is that your name, sir? Especially for that. Rhinoc, an ancient Sinnoh evolution of Rhydon. Due to its huge size, it requires a massive amount of land to support itself. It will mark its territory with lines drawn by its drill tail, and defend it fiercely. So the design, very Digimon to me, but wide Boulder, got the Dunsparce tail, and definitely taking inspiration from Rhydon and making it look more like a Triceratops. So like a fossil Rhydon, or a, in our world, use of the word pre-evolution for Rhydon that eventually simplified into what we know, like Rhyperior. I absolutely love the texturing on here. It's not just simple flat coloring. You added some sort of like stained paper look to the coloration here, which help show off a more earthy look. Big fan. Gengar and Cosmog. I guess this is one of the fusion sites. The coloration is absolutely great, and you get a real jester feel for the whole Mon, having the creepy smiling face and the long colorful ears. I don't know what else to say other than it is creepy, and I would want one on my team because I am kind of messed up like that. Makes me wonder if it's any evolution or if it's what its pre-evolutions would look like. Oh, the Arcanine. My take on Hisui and Growlithe evolution. Psyched for Pokemon Legend Arceus. I am too, man. After my little video on that, I'm pretty happy. But a Fire Steel Arcanine, definitely going into the influence of that rock Japanese statue. I forget what it's called. I'm not sure if it's the real name, but I keep coming back to the character in One Piece, Koma Inu. I'm gonna go ahead and look at that. I was right! Koma Inu! Definitely laying more into that, making it look more fierce, and definitely showing off how the texturing of its fur is supposed to be more like rocks rather than smoothed boulders. As it ages, the rocks grow with it, and they aren't like newly born smooth rocks. I really appreciate that. But you can still see what came from the previous evolution. I very much like it. And it's got the little Icarus cloud puffs on its front legs. Very cool. Rounding out the weather trio, G-Max Groudon. So I assume it's the same person who did the Rayquaza, and Groudon looking so sick. I hadn't seen any Gigantamax that mold into some sort of material, but if you're gonna have any, like Heatran Groudon melding into lava, look so sick. Having fully fledged volcanoes on Groudon's arms and making it look down on you so much that it's looking up. I appreciate the reference. I already just made a One Piece reference on the previous evolution. I don't remember if they added spikes, but I think they did to Groudon, making it look just that much more threatening. Already, I think the lava body and the pure size of this thing, if that's a full volcano on its arm, oh yeah, that's so intimidating. Regional variants of Lotad, Lombre, and Ludicolo, but instead they're making food on a pan. That's adorable. My god, though, Lombre looks even more like a Kappa, with its primarily bright green skin tone. Yeah, I think the original is more of like a darker green or a yellow. I know Ludicolo's is yellow, but this bright green and some orange really brings to mind a Kappa to me, and I don't like it. It's almost like they're removing their head after getting so used to their original designs. I don't know. But the amount of food growing is absolutely adorable. And they look so happy to be feeding people. Big fan. Big fan. Kyogre. I knew I had to at least get the next weather trio in here. So, Kyogre melding into the typing that it is, water, once again. Looks almost like a hurricane. Ocean Lord Kyogre, part of a 2-part commission. So, again, it just looks like Kyogre with extra steps. And melding into the water is a great touch. It takes inspiration from Wailord with the stripes under its jaw, making it look like a gigantic whale. But it doesn't have that size comparison like Groudon or Rayquaza had, due to the large thunderclouds or the volcanoes on its arms. Some amount of water kind of looks like a lot of the same water. Water's hard to gauge size-wise, so having that be the only inspiration, or the only comparison for this mon is gonna be hard to do. I'm not sure what else they could have done, though. I do really like the use of, like, folding bits of a whale, so I think that was great design work there. Oh, renewed Gen 2 starters, a Sakura blooming Chikorita line, a fireworks-inspired Cyndaquil line, and that same ice Totodile line? Okay. Ice Caveman Totodile, I guess. Out of all these, so Chikorita's my favorite out of Gen 2, but I think, in fact, no, I know that I would like Cyndaquil here. Its adorable smaller body with the blaring tail, and then the bright, vibrant colors of each of their designs are so cool. And I love how Typhlosion's head is that darker color, almost like a burned wick. Like its body will eventually be this darker burned color as the firework continues to explode. But, oh! It has great inspiration using the sparks and the lit wick. It's not supposed to be a pun. It's not supposed... The lit string on Cyndaquil as a use for that fire that they sometimes exude, but I like it so much more, and it feels less like a ripoff of Charizard when shown in a firework context. The Totodile line, big, beefy Pokemon are not generally my thing. Caveman variant is alright, but I much preferred that ice emphasis that I saw a few Pokemon back. And then Chikorita still looks adorable. Meganium looks a little wrinkly there, and it's throwing me off. I know Meganium's old, but not that old. Navor region starters, Babil, Skurat, and Arboru. Okay, so I'm gonna guess that the Navor region is in Australia. So having a... Oh, Babil being like a duck? I mean, it's water coloration. I expect it to be water. It could be water flying, but a duck is often associated with being on water, so it could just be monotyped. I like that they hid a Pokemon design in its feathers on its head. The white line and dot, very reminiscent of a Pokeball on the extremely round head. The rat, Skurat. It could be like a dark fire, but I expect it to be more fire, maybe evolving into dark fire. Again, very rounded design. I'm a fan. It has that fire tail that I've seen just a few too many times with Pokemon. But the design on its tail is interesting, how it has this solid line, then cuts to the next color for just a little bit, then back, then a solid line of that color. That's an interesting pattern that I don't see. And it has a consistency in the tail coloration without being a cumbersome design on such a thin strip of this mon. And it uses every color but black that is on the main body. And I like that callback to keep the whole thing consistent. Even though I think that the coloration could be reduced by at least one color. Maybe make the feet and hands red? Or keep them that yellow color. I don't feel like orange is necessary there. And Arboru, a wood kangaroo creature. I believe kangaroos have that same ear shape, they just emphasized it and maybe made it a bit thicker for Arboru. So very adorable. I wish it would have more of an angled face rather than a dumpling head. That's what I'll go with. Or a Goomba head. There we go. But the body shape is adorable. It has a very Score Bunny feel to it. But that could work. That could really work. Oh, Fakemon line for Bigfoot and Yeti. Okay. They don't feel like they change as much as I would want them to. So Kidfoot, very thick Kidfoot. I feel like you could maybe round out the head, make it more monkey-like, and lose the spikes to lead up to the next one. Oh, it's a split evolution. Okay, that makes more sense. Level up in mountains, level up in forest. So, never mind. The split evolutions tend to look a little bit more heavily designed. I'm thinking of Nincada, that line. I'm thinking that that line, it does look a little bit more detailed than a lot of the baby Pokemon of a tertiary evolution line. Grass Squatch. Okay, so having a more in tune with nature look, but still having like a manly mustache holding the log of a tree. Very interesting. So trying to really set in that it's all about nature. And then Snow Squatch. Mountain ape Pokemon. Holding a big pillar of rock over its shoulder. Possibly using it to defend its territory as it likes the isolation of the mountain. I appreciate that. Oh my god. Okay, a dragon thermometer Pokemon. Luke Worm and Farron Hydra. I like it. I like it a lot. So, oh my god, like RGB and red, orange, yellow, green, violet, green, indigo, violet. Roy G. Biv from Pokemon Sage. I love the coloration and the change in color as it goes along. That would be such a pain to make in pixel art, but it creates a really cool color scheme that has to stay consistent as you go throughout a mon. And somehow it still brings it all together as there is a melding into something else. And I do like Farron Hydra, both as its inspiration of a multi-headed snake, and then one being super cold, one being super hot. If this thing isn't like ice fire, I would be terribly, terribly disappointed. Okay, fire ice. There we go. Perfect. Didn't see that at first. I'm sorry. Aside from that, the head shape's a little strange. Maybe I'm not sure what this specific thermometer would look like, but what I'm familiar with is a small tube with a bulbous bottom, which I absolutely love as a tie-in for the tip of their tail. Absolutely love it. And I think we shall go one more. Kalos form of Rattata and Raticate? Okay, so Ratatouille? It's Remy from Ratatouille. Is there... I think it's even colored like Remy from Ratatouille. Little hat. Maybe a little bit more pink. But the lighter color of its fur forming an apron. I guess that's not a hat. That is part of its head. It's just... It's the brain. That is Ratatat's brain is in that chef's hat. That's strange. But having a weapon spoon, that's adorable. Is Raticate gonna have the tallest hat in the world? I really hope. Oh! Okay, this is just Ratatouille, the Pokemon. Isn't this the chef dude from Ratatouille? The one that's the inspiration for the guy being controlled? I haven't seen it in so long. But I feel like this is that dude. And it's so good. I gotta have pictures up. Somewhere around here, there has to be pictures of what I'm talking about. But the mustache, the very portly man, you know he knows his food. Oh, there's a female version? Okay, yeah, no mustache. Oh, and the little beauty mark? Okay. Very normal? Yes, I can imagine that they're making some fantastic food, so they have a very helpful career. I don't know. They help out people a lot. They focus less on combat. I can understand it being fairy, and that, my friend, is a great point to let it off on, because that is a movie reference. Fakemon is exactly what I'm looking for. That sounds fantastic. Well, I hope you enjoyed. As I did say at the beginning, I do plan on taking a break from Fakemon reacting for a little bit. Eventually, I'm going to get back into it, but I do feel like it's a bit samey. Now, not looking at the same decks, fantastic. I can see different mediums and how people express different things, and sometimes it's just straight up references. It feels less serious in this sort of context, so it was a nice breather, but I don't think it would last as a breather. So, thank you very much for watching. Please stay tuned for my other content. I'm going to continue editing my PTU sessions because at this point I just wrapped up the epilogue, and I do think the campaign went pretty well, so I thought I'd upload it. And I'm gonna try and work on more things related to my game or looking at games, as Pokemon isn't the only thing that I'll work on for the rest of my life, or at least I hope it isn't. So I want this to be an emphasis because I love Pokemon, but I don't want it to be the only thing on the channel. I want to do stuff that's more fun, and if you've ever seen Some Ordinary Gamers, that's kind of what I want to try and do. Stuff that I find fun and interesting. So please stay tuned. I enjoy having you here, and I'd love to see you again. Thank you. Have a good night.